I'll go ahead and call the study session for July 10th. Customer Sanitary District Board of Directors. Madam Clerk, the roll call.
Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer.
Here.
President Michael Schaefer.
Here. Record reflect that Directors Uten and Ferryman are excused from the meeting this morning. Thank you. Public comments. It's time and place set aside for persons to make comments not listed on the agenda. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll go right to items of study number 1. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. President. Officer Ed Roberts is not here today to give the report, so I'll do the best I can to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Scott on the Code Enforcement Officer's report? Pretty standard compared to the last few months. I mean, the trends don't seem to change much, do they?
Not much, no.
Maybe, I don't know if you look at this month to month and things stay pretty consistent. There's some kind of outreach, or if there's something we should talk about doing.
The only thing I noticed was there was like 91 carts that you had to give notice to that were in public view. You know, it's been significantly high, I think, the last few months. But that's the only thing I noticed.
I don't know if that had something to do with, there were a couple of holidays, you know, with Memorial Day and 4th of July. And
It could be.
I don't know. I noticed that too, though. So, okay. Organics tonnage report, item 2.
Actually, item 2 and 3 are just standard reports, so happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions on those?
I was thinking, just to add a question about OCC, looking at their report, they don't take in newspaper. Is that something that they could consider doing? Because that would beef up our percentage a little bit.
We can ask. I don't know.
I mean, that would be.
They don't take newspapers in?
No, they don't list it as a product. So if they could, that would be significant for us, I think. Just a thought.
On that same subject real quick on OCC, I had a resident send me a note really complimenting Mike Carey and the staff over there. He had a bunch of stuff in his garage, fluorescent light tubes. And he said it was so quick and easy. And had another customer kind of in the same vein send me a complaint about, what is it that Rainbow does over in Huntington Beach? They collect toxic or hazardous.
The HHW, hazardous waste. They have the permanent drop-off site there. So
this person went there, and apparently it was extremely high. I mean, the rate was extremely high. So that
there's no charge when they go there.
Well, whatever he was, maybe it was for dumping. Is that
maybe use the dump? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a transfer station there too.
Okay, so
he
he got upset with Rainbow because they were so high. And he went up to CR&R, and they were like 40% less.
Yes, I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
several times.
It's kind of indicative of what's going on. But again, that compliment about OCC, this guy went on and on about how great they were over there. So
they have somebody comes out right to your car and they take it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
It's fast. You pull in. I was in and out like in 1 minute.
So cans and everything.
Oh, it was cardboard for this time from the fireworks stuff.
Okay, then let's go to item 4, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Steve Hodges will be giving this report.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. So we've discussed this item briefly a few times. We got together with staff and came up with several recommendations that we think will enhance the program and make it more resident friendly. Some of the issues that we identified, we think there may be a lack of understanding from a homeowner's perspective. And the reason being is I think that we all live and breathe laterals and CCTV, et cetera, daily, but the average homeowner, CCTV means like closed caption television, like it doesn't mean anything to them. So one of the suggestions we have is perhaps changing the name and making it a rebate program. Another thing that we discuss is the process is kind of cumbersome from a profitability standpoint on the plumber's end. Because they would have to make multiple trips around town, not even doing the job just to get the rebate, which is only $200. So we've suggested doing an online form and paying the resident directly, and that way they can submit online to sign up for the program, and we can reserve the funds for them. And then the only time they actually have to come in is when they bring us the video and the invoice to reimburse them. Another thing that we discussed too is the knowledge transfer. So we reached out to the 82 contractors about a year ago. 19 were on our list. But the opinion is that the most of the 19 were either owners or in management and not in the field. And so therefore to train, with turnover and everyone in the field, that's more and more cost on the plumber's end. And that doesn't really have a cost benefit with the $200 that they're going to receive, factoring in all the other factors. So part of our recommendation would be not only to pay the residents directly, but also offer an additional incentive where you can do up to $250 for a CCTV or up to $500 to install a clean out. Either or, you can't do both. You would have the funds to be able to manage that. Another recommendation we have is there's an app called Nextdoor which targets communities. And my understanding is Mesa Water has an account where they can target specific communities. And perhaps we can do the same and reach out to those problem areas that are identified with hotspots, and also just to advertise our program and let the homeowners know that it's there for them.
How does that work with the next door? Is it next door neighbor? Is that what it's called, or is it?
It's just called Nextdoor.
I mean, is that the one like at Upper Bird Streets and Lower Bird Streets? Or?
Well, each neighborhood, I'm sorry, Steve, if I'm stepping on your, I just had a little bit of familiarity with it. Each neighborhood sets up their own.
Right.
Like in my little corner up there in the north, there's a Nextdoor account.
But my question is, would we be able to get into those accounts? Can we get into those to give them information?
If I may, we found out there's 32 separate Nextdoor neighborhood accounts. So we can't do a two-way communications with them. It's not set up that way because we don't live in that neighborhood. We have to set up an account, and it's just basically a one-way communications where we can send out notices and inform the residents, but we can't see them talking to their neighbors because we're not in the neighborhood. But it is a good way to get our message out to more people.
Because they list those items on the information that they send out daily. So that would probably work pretty well.
Yes, we think so.
Yeah, I think it would.
As long as our information is pretty accurate in how they go about doing things.
What's the fee to join? There's no fee to join Nextdoor, if I remember right?
No, it's free.
If you can run ads in there.
Do you know if you can?
I thought I saw or read something about the ability to put it. Yeah.
But I think that idea is pretty good if we can get to those 32, just one direct way, and then they contact us.
Yes, correct.
And then another idea that staff had outside of the quarterly newsletter, because we put it in 2 newsletters, and by activity you can see that's when it jumps as far as applications. And if we wanted to reach more people on a regular basis, we can put inserts on Mesa Water's billing. And that's more efficient since they're already paying for the postage and so much less cost for us just to throw something in.
The cost is roughly like $600 to get to for a month. They go half of the neighbors one month and half the next month. But it costs the Lions Club $600 to do an insert, so that's not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. And then another idea that we had is we have banners on the side of CR&R trucks, and perhaps changing some of those banners to advertise our program.
I think it'd be kind of cool just to get a community outreach. We were really good. The guys are really good with Sewer Slayer, for example. You've got this identifiable thing. I could see us doing something like, what's lurking in your sewer, or you ever want to look down your toilet? There's all kinds of things you could. You know what I mean? Just little catchphrases, little things that would draw people's attention to what we can possibly do. I really like the idea of giving them an option of the CCTV or the clean out. I think that's a great alternative, and I don't know. I know I have one. Right. When you walk out my front door, right off the porch, there's a clean out.
I have that too.
And I think my whole neighborhood has something similar to that. But it would seem to me that would be a really good option for people to have. So I'd like to see that included in there. The stuff on the trucks, I don't know how many people see the trucks, but they do run around town. So
I'd like to comment on the trucks. Actually, we have so much budgeted usually for what we're going to do for the trucks. I thought, no?
TR&R pays
They
for
pay
that.
for that.
I mean, they do, but.
Well, that they budget
but
for us?
I'm saying they budget for us. So,
It's limited how many banners, though. It's limited. I think it's 2 banners, I think.
Yeah, too bad.
So,
that's what I was concerned about, because we get 2 or 3 a year. And so that would be a hard one. And yet, I feel a lot of people see the trucks, mainly because they're waiting for the trash to be picked up, or, but then some work and don't see it. So, that's kind of iffy.
And I think I was thinking about this the other day, because weekly and almost daily sometimes, some real estate agent puts something on one particular real estate agent in town put something on my front porch.
Yeah, true.
I mean, could we do some kind of partnership with the real estate association or with these guys to say, take advantage of this before you look at selling your house or buying a house, or connecting with those kind of people because they're going to pass that thing. They're going to put it on the door anyway. And if we could contribute to part of that,
It's interesting you say that, because Bow found something this morning from the city of Burbank where they do door hangers that describe their program. And so you're right. If they're already going door to door and paying that cost to someone to drop off, maybe we can piggyback on.
and I guess I'd ask Alan, would there be any problem with us working with like a business owner or real estate agent to put our message out?
Well, that's one issue, is if you were working with them to do it and you had some contract with them, but if you were just sharing the cost of the delivery, like the Times and the Register were paying for the same carrier to deliver the paper, I mean, why not just reduce the cost for everybody and there's no involvement?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, thank you. One of the problems with our program is it's voluntary, of course, as we know. Some agencies have indeed passed ordinances that require point of sale CCTV inspection of the lateral. So there are agencies in California that have done that.
Really?
And we did look at that once before. It's rather controversial because when we did, the next day the BIA was all over us because they say there's already so many requirements when selling real estate with disclosures and termites and all this and that. One of the problems we have right now with the program is that if you imagine the contractor pulling up to the house and saying, here I am to fix your problem. And then if they try to get on our program where the CCTV is going to be free, they have to wait and get a hold of BOW, get permission to be on the program, then they can do the CCTV. So right off the bat, and the contractor's only going to get $200 for that, and he's going to have to turn down doing any work now because they have to follow the protocol. So it's not really set up for the contractor's benefit. So the advertising really needs to go to the homeowner and get them to be proactive and do it before they run into a problem or before they're going to sell or something.
Rob, I couldn't agree with you more. And I've mentioned this several times, and we've talked about, plumbers are going to be reluctant to, we've targeted the plumbers, or at least we did with the lateral program. This is, in kind of a way, we're taking money away from the contract, from the plumbers, rightfully or wrongfully. So I think our approach needs to be direct to the homeowners and whoever else is controlling that property.
And just to refresh your memory, the reason why we changed the program is to protect the homeowners, because plumbers were taking advantage of the homeowners, and that's why we implemented this program, is to protect the homeowners. That was our priority, not the plumbers.
And then just to give an example, because this happened a couple days ago, another reason to deal with the resident directly is we had an instance where a lady was very upset because she tried to participate in our program, and she had a clean out. And when they showed up, they told her that their camera wasn't long enough, and it would be $2,000 to. And she was furious, rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
And so you wonder how many people get taken advantage of and don't know that that's not a reasonable charge.
Absolutely.
The camera was too short. So would they have to buy a new camera with the $2,000? Is that the idea?
They had, well, they said that they had to put in a clean out by the sidewalk so they could continue to come from that portion to the city, to the district.
How far was that? 30 feet?
That's probably the 25 to 30 feet.
Yeah.
That's really a bunch of hooey.
Yeah, that's a bunch of
The
hooey.
contractors can normally go even through the roof deck and make it all the way out to our main.
Oh, yeah.
Not a problem.
So at this point, then you guys are going to take a look at 3 or 4 alternatives or 5, whatever it is, and see what we can do to tweak this thing, or
Well, we've got a list of recommendations. If you are okay with those 8 recommendations, we'll implement them and come back with a report.
CR&R wanted to say something.
I don't know the contract on me, but I believe it's once per quarter for the signs, the magnetic signs, at least like the organics one on Christmas tree. We should talk about it. Nabila, Jean, and I are going to talk about it. Maybe you could join us as part of it, or you could relay it to them. I see a lot of potential with the signs as well. Not necessarily with, I wasn't necessarily talking about what you're talking about, but we can find a way to make it all work. Also, some of the outreach you're talking about in terms of like utilizing real estate or the next door route, I think that could also overlay with us. So I guess to put it bluntly, it could be incestuous in terms of like cost per impression and how how we interact with those.
Thank you. That's terrific.
I have a question. Is Director Uten going to be here for the board meeting?
I believe so.
Because he's pretty much authority in this. Besides, all of us, but I mean, he's really into this type of deal. I would like to get his input, but if it's is this going to be on the board agenda for this month?
It can be if you want it to be. It wasn't. We're seeking direction from the board today, but we can postpone it for the July meeting.
I would probably be.
You better bring it back. Bring it back again to study session in August.
Yeah.
That'd be all right.
But I'm just thinking if we approve, then you have to wait till August. Then I'm just thinking in September is the fish fry, because that would be one way to give out information to the public.
Yeah.
So
I'd recommend putting the July agenda. It's not going to be very full, so.
That's good.
Sounds good.
Can we include in here? We talked about like how the door hangers. Can we find out what that would cost for us to have that done? Yeah,
We used to do that. Remember the large item pickups?
yeah, that's kind of what I triggered it.
And I think we got rid of it because it was costly. And it was time consuming.
Did CNR perform that service for us?
I think they did.
I think they did, didn't they?
Or we could look at a program where print the door hangers and then have the staff work a Saturday and Sunday and just canvass the whole community. Get some dirty looks from staff.
All 21,000. What a weekend.
Actually, there's probably a couple board members that could use the exercise more than the staff members. So.
I'm looking at them.
I live in that house. I have no problem.
The only thing we have to worry about is it's when you get into fall, you're into the election, and people just take everything and throw them away.
That's a good point.
So, we need to worry about that too.
We need to have it done by September.
September
Or the stuff comes out.
Okay, so you want to bring that back with the...
Sure, we'll bring it back on the
That
26th.
sounds good.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve. Good presentation. All right, let's go to item 5 on study.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nabila Guzman will be giving this report.
Levi.
Good morning, President Schaefer, members of the board. Per direction from the board, staff is proposing a new reward structure that would be based on the school's collection efforts. I have included 2 proposals in the report, and there is a 3rd proposal submitted by Assistant Secretary Uten. That's I placed on the dais for you. Last fiscal year, there was a significant increase in the batteries collected by the schools. 4 schools collected over 1,000 pounds, but the reward was not reflective of their efforts. Based on the feedback received from the board, the reward for the first place was reduced, and I have included a reward for schools that collect under 50 pounds. The proposed reward structures will allow further growth in the program. And for competitive purposes, option A or option B would only increase the payout by 1,250 or 1,350 respectively. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
Well, Director Uten's is similar to option B for us. And not every school will reach every category, which is good. It'd be based on their participation, but this gets the schools that don't, that participate but on a lower basis, if they participate, under 50 pounds gets them $100, which is somewhat of an incentive. So, I mean, if we're gonna make my opinion would be go to option B, and that's similar to Director Newton's.
Under discussion, I would think that if we do go to a higher amount of money, that we're able to do better PR on it. In other words, we should get out to the public, to the schools, get something, because the schools, through our liaison meeting, we could even do it.
The school participation has increased every year, so it's every year we're getting more and more schools. So I think our public relations campaign has been very effective, but the liaison committee is another good option, but we are getting a lot of schools.
What I'm just saying is that we would be able to let them know that financially they can even make more money for the schools, because it's kind of low-keyed. We don't do that. We just, okay, we're here, we're making a presentation, and we're giving so much money on behalf of the sanitary district. And you could even make it, a little more than that and say through the trash and this and that.
I think what hurts us is the high school's not participating, because they're the ones that can generate a lot of.
True.
They do it the right way. Because when I was that district director, we participated. We are always making money.
Well, we need to work on this a little more.
It's up to it's like the activities director at each one of the high schools we have to get to.
I can reach out to those schools to see if they want to participate in the program.
Tell them they need to. I'm serious.
Tell them Art Perry said that they need to.
But I think because we used to do it with every classroom. Every classroom would be and have an incentive to do it. But I think they just need to be directed.
Mm-hmm.
It's my thought.
Yeah, the only thing with Director Uten's that he cuts it off at under 100. To me, option B gives us a lot more options and a lot more incentive because you have the different levels.
And not every school is going to reach a certain level, which is good. And some people may be over 1,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that many probably, but that'll go to first, second, or third place. You see what I mean? So the money going out probably won't be used, unless we get more participation from the schools. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I think even the newspapers enter into it. We can make them aware more and get some pictures or something, that would help. Because the parents love the idea, but they're shocked when we're doing it because they don't even know that this is happening.
Right.
And when you go to those presentations, it's almost, Nabila and Gina, those of you that have been to those, don't you think we get a bigger reaction from the parents than we do the kid? The kids just know that their mom and dad are collecting batteries. And when the parents realize that school is getting that check, they seem to be the ones that are stoked about it. So, and the other thing is, somehow or another, we need to get to the school board and let them know how important this is.
I put it on my notes. We'll contact them.
I think we get some help out of the school board or school staff. Don't you, Art? I mean,
yeah. And we just ask them to have the principals get behind it, just direct somebody to.
We can do that through the liaison.
Yeah, the liaison committee too, but just tell them we have this program. We want them to
utilize as much as we could.
So, go ahead.
And that establishing a point of contact also allows us to promote other, waste diversion, and just in not even just a program, but also just outreach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Good, Rob.
One time when we had a program in the past, the schools asked us to bring enough flyers for everyone to take one home. And that's how they got the word to the parents. They went in with going home. And it generated a lot of activity.
They don't do that. They don't send the flyers out anymore because what was happening is the kids were getting given to their parents. Yeah. So what they're doing is each school, kind of like next door, each school has a web program or something that a portal. That's what it is. And if we could get into that link,
We have an account called PeachJar, and it's
We do.
It's for all of NMUSD.
Oh, really?
oh, good. Okay. No, that's That's
Does that go to all the homes?
Those are all the parents, right?
That's right.
Good. Okay. All right, then you're going to bring these back to us for a vote then in July as to which ones you want to go, or do you want us to give you a recommendation?
You want a recommendation now? If we could, a recommendation now.
I think I agree with Art. I think I like option B.
Agree with that.
And the one thing that I don't like about option A is giving them $50 is almost anticlimactic. $50, $100 has a different sound to it. That's my biggest reason.
No, I think we're unanimous on B.
We're gonna bring that back to them.
No, we've got direction. We'll implement it right now.
For when you're rewarding these schools, do you account for the fact that schools have variance in population size?
Yes.
Okay.
So the school it's up to the school to promote the program. We provide them with all the information, and then the school reaches out to the teachers and to the students and does their own promotion.
But it's, in terms of a bigger school having a bigger, we don't really look at the population numbers. It is what it is. And it's funny, if you look at the list of the ones that have won, Woodland Elementary was in 6th place. That's probably one of the smaller schools in the district. So I think it's really the enthusiasm and the level of the parents getting involved. We say this is directed at the kids, but like I said earlier, this is directed at the parents because
Or
kids would rather
the teacher in charge.
or the teacher in charge,
the
and that's a
teacher.
good point. Yeah. So, okay.
I wonder if certain schools in certain neighborhoods are better performing in the battery program, but they're also better performing in organics and in other programs. And then overall, we see some neighborhoods that maybe poorly performing in the battery program at the school, but they're also not really contributing to organics overall. Have you noticed something like that? Or?
Because organics, we just get an overall tonnage. It's not by sections or by districts or portions of the city, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'll try to see if I can find out those.
I think that's dead on. I think if you've got a neighborhood that's actively participating in any kind of recycling program, it's going to carry over to what they're doing with their school kids too.
I
Absolutely agree. Good.
Would you guys ever consider looking at this from the perspective of per student, not just the aggregate amount, but in terms of seeing and I'm not trying to promote that they waste more batteries or contribute to it, but just in the sense that if you looked at it by student average, you would see that some schools have a very low participation unit, but overall total counts is still high. Do you have this in the numbers already? The population size?
I think we could get the numbers from the public schools, but at parochial schools and private schools, which we have quite a few, we allow it there. I think their numbers might be harder to get. So you're going to almost cut them out of the process if you do it that way. You know what I mean? So good thought, though. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Nabila. Scott, item 6.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So in 2017, the district awarded a contract through a formal bidding process to California Building Evaluation and Construction, Inc. to perform improvements at the 19th Street pump station. That work was completed on July 14th, 2017. Approximately about 7 months later, we did experience an SSO at that station, which was our first SSO in about 440 consecutive days without an SSO. We CCTV'd our line and found that the contractor, California Building Evaluation, they bored a storm drain pipe through the sewer pipe, and rags and debris got stuck between the drain pipe, the bored pipe, and the sewer pipe that caused the SSO. Fortunately, staff responded quickly and recovered all the wastewaters, but we still had to report it to the state. So it's as today, it's our only SSO so far. But after we noticed the deficiency in the contractor's work, we contacted them, and they immediately responded, and they repaired the sewer pipe. However, during that process, the city changed their position and required base material to be used for filling the excavation instead of using native dirt. And according to the contractor, that substantially increased their cost to over $37,000. And they wanted us to pay for that because that was different and different than what our regular scope of work was required. And I said no, because if they would have done the work properly, we wouldn't have had an SSO, and we didn't have an SSO, therefore the city wouldn't have been there and required that change. So I thought it's their fault. It's the expensive lesson for them to learn. They accepted that. They agreed that it was their fault. They agreed to waive the $37,400 invoice, but we also gave them the invoice from us for our cost to responding to the SSO, as well as removing the storm drain pipe, and that was $8,300. And they were requesting us to waive our invoice of $8,300. So basically, you have several options to consider, which is in your staff report. One of them is to waive the full amount, but I believe, and you can ask district council this, but that could be considered a gift of public funds if we do waive it. So that's something to consider. You could waive a portion of the invoice. For instance, we hired a contractor, Municipal Underground Services, to remove the storm drain pipe. That was at $2,850. Maybe we would just recoup that cost if that makes you feel comfortable. Or the third option is deny waiving the invoice and require the contractor to make full payment. We did notify the contractor of today's meeting and suggested he be here to address the board. He's not here today. I did say, I do have to admit, I did receive an email from him over the weekend, and I shared it with district council. It's almost threatening a little bit. It was almost like, well, we'll waive our invoice if you waive yours, that kind of position. And so that made me, so that has us cautious. But I think district council's here today to answer more questions. I think we are on very solid ground to have our position waiving their change order. Also, we're on solid ground to request recuperation of our cost. And so it's up to you what you want to do. Like I said, there's 3 options for you to consider, and we're seeking direction from you today.
Clarify what that means when you said they'll waive theirs if we waive ours.
In other words, they won't come after us legally or try to come after legally or to recoup their change order, their $37,000. They're saying, hey, we'll waive that invoice, the $37,000, if you waive our invoice of $8,300. So tit for tat, basically.
Go ahead, Art.
Okay, you mentioned the cost that we had to have the contractor come out to fix was $2,000. What amount was it?
Yeah, the total $8,000 cost. The $8,000. The break. I think I have it's in their attachments. The total breakdown $8,300. That includes Rob's time dealing with the contractor for repairing the main. It also our cost to respond to the SSO and cleaning it up. And then, as I mentioned, we hired a contractor, Municipal Underground Utilities, I think it is called. But their cost was, Municipal Underground Services. Their cost to remove the storm drain was $2,850.
The rest of the cost was our people going out to fix
Our
it.
cost and Rob's cost, yes.
What was Rob's cost?
It's. I don't have it. I have to open it up.
About
Looks like it's roughly $4,000.
Close to $4,000.
Okay, $4,000 for.
We already paid Rob.
Yes, we did.
Go ahead, Armin.
Okay. I have no problem with denying it because I think they're in the wrong, and somehow we have to prove that, when you're wrong, you're wrong. And if this almost sets a precedence that if they can get away with it, anybody can do that. If they have a problem, they could try all these little tactics to try to see. And I think that they were wrong. So I have no problem with just making them pay for it.
What did we pay for their total job to do that work? Just the
37,000.
Oh, no.
No, you talking about for the
whole job.
The whole job.
How much did they make on it?
for making the repairs
No, for the whole job.
or for the 19th Street improvements?
It was 150,000 thereabouts.
Mr. President, could I give a little legal background to this?
Yes, please.
And normally, when we got the letter that we ended up receiving, we could have met in closed session, but we received it less than 24 hours, so there wasn't time for closed session. But if you determine at some point that a closed session is necessary, we can do that. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you some open session advice. Generally, your district's operations code says that every person who damages district property by their negligence or intentional acts is responsible for the full costs of repair and response and all of that. So that's what your operations code says. And even in the absence of an operations code, general negligence principle says that you're responsible for all the dominoes that fall based on whatever act you commit that's negligent. And this would certainly be something that would naturally flow. I mean, he's complaining that the city wanted a more expensive repair. Well, we didn't cause that. And that's not an intentional third-party criminal act or anything. I mean, that's just a naturally flowing damage that happened. And then lastly, we do have the gift of public funds issue. If it's a clear liability and they don't have an adequate case or assertion to settle it, then you'd have, you owe a duty to your ratepayers to not waive a claim that's frivolous. So those are the things to consider.
I just, a couple quick things. Have we checked for their general liability policy to see if their negligence is going to be I mean, shouldn't we be filing a claim against their general liability carrier if they have one for the damages? I mean, the proximate cause of this whole thing is their negligence.
I would think that if they can't cover the cost, that the carrier would be notified, but
we don't know that.
They would notify them. Yeah, I assume they'd prefer to take care of it than getting their insurance company involved. But I'm sure we do have that insurance policy on file, and we require any work to have a substantial general liability policy that would cover it. So there's a source of recovery for sure.
The other thing is, I tend to agree with Secretary Schaefer in that they caused it. They did the damage. I don't want to send the public mixed messages in terms of we have a contractor who dumped concrete down a sewer and we're going after him to the full extent. I mean, we've got the district attorney involved, so we're going after him full throttle. To not go after this guy full throttle would be sending a real mixed message to our ratepayers that we're inconsistent and that we're not consistent. And I kind of know where I stand right now, and that's they need to pay. They did the damage.
Can we still go to a closed session at the next board meeting?
If you need one.
Because the other two members aren't present.
Sure.
Yeah. Based on that letter that they gave you, it does sound pretty threatening. I mean, it may require that.
And I would just add, besides the general liability policy that would cover the negligence, we also have a performance bond that it's supposed to. The sewer line is supposed to perform as intended for a period, and it didn't. So obviously that would cover it too.
I'm almost thinking this contractor doesn't want to go to his insurance company because he's probably got some issues that he's looking at either a cancellation or a severe rate increase would be my guess. But that's not our problem. Okay. Any other questions for staff on this?
So, Brian, here, right, you want to go to closed session?
That way we have the other two directors can.
I won't be in that board meeting. I'll be in New York.
You're not going to be here?
Lucky you. I think at this point, you're hearing from all of us, I think, that we need to go after the money. I think we need to notify the contractor that the board's feeling right now is...
I'll just email them and say it was denied.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at our invoice, it said that it was due on June 21st. And I assume they're incurring the 10% penalty now. Whether we stick with that or not, that's your discretion, Scott. But I think we need to tell them the consensus of the board is we need to be paid. Rob?
Yes, thank you. So what's not in the staff report is an analysis of their invoice, and which I did. And I calculated exactly how much base they should have used if the city had made a change to the original documents. And what they did was their their costs are out of control. I did speak with them, and the amount of base they used, which is what the city made them do, was close to what they would have had to do if they followed the plans. So generally speaking, what I'm saying is I agree with their number of tons of base that they brought out to the site. But the value of that base in the industry installed in the ground is less than $2,000. It's not $37,000. It's less than $2,000 based on today's costs. And they don't have any supporting information in their invoice. It's not a normal invoice. A normal contractor's invoice is broken down into labor, equipment, materials, and there's, 15% on top of this, and sub that is this. It's just here it is. So not only do they have a cost that's out of control, there's no way I haven't told them what I'm telling you right now, that $37,000 doesn't really make any sense. I don't know how they came up with that, but they did say that it was strictly for the base. That's their cost for the extra base. But it makes no sense. So if you are going to charge them for the SSO, you could say that maybe you don't agree with their costs, that it appears to be excessive for the amount of base you used, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's the extent of having worked with them. I just found out their amount of base and didn't tell them anything at all. And here we are today.
And Mr. President, that raises one more issue, and that is if this is a claim based on the contract, that claim form was supposed to, request for a change order was supposed to be submitted within 10 days of discovering the issue, and there had to be a detailed, substantiated claim submitted explaining why we would owe extra money. And I'm not sure that was done, at least using the form, our contract form.
There was nothing along those lines. No quantities, no labor costs, no breakdown, no anything.
Well, I think you have direction.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
I think it's time for us now to go to closed session, correct? Yeah. So we're going to adjourn the board to conference with counsel on existing litigation under Government Code 54956.9, which is the Costa Mesa Sanitary District versus Mesa Water District. Okay. So we are adjourned to closed session. All right. I'm going to reconvene us to open session regarding our closed session conference on existing litigation 54956.9, Costa Mesa Sanitary District versus Mesa Water District, and report that there's no reportable action taken. And with that, I'll ask for any oral communications or director comments.
Yeah, good meeting.
Just one quick comment. I had asked at the last study session to have you and Steve look at that LAFCO dues thing that's been proposed through ISDOC.
Yeah.
We made a kind of a decision this morning, so I may want to sit down with you and Steve in the next couple of weeks and show you what we're going to be doing so that you're prepared when that comes through. So I'll send you a time or something, see if you and Steve are available.
I had one thing.
Yes.
I went to the barbecue yesterday that they had here. It was very nice, and I really learned a lot, to know the different people that were here.
How'd it go? Good?
It was great.
Sorry, I missed it. I had another commitment.
It was very nice. They even had an agenda. I was shocked. I thought, oh, this is fun, just eating it. And all of a sudden, oh, there's an agenda, and there was something to do.
Who cooked?
David did. David barbecued.
Sweet.
David and Steve.
All right. Nothing else. We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.